You do differently, though. They have had a different plan every week that has had bipartisan support.
Don't trust the federal government to get it done. We're here on Wall Street. We are on Main Street. Trust those people who built the economy in the past. The federal government has never created one job that is sustainable long term. It creates government project work, but it's not creating real work where people are.
But good luck telling the American people to trust Wall Street.
Yeah.
To create American jobs.
I'm not saying trust the people who create the wealth and the economy of the country.
Small business owners,
they're not. Small businesses didn't destroy it. I mean, the bulk of the jobs that are created in this country, you know where they come from?
Yeah.
Small business owners,
yeah.
all right?
Okay.
So when you say they're the ones that almost destroyed it, they're not the ones that almost destroyed it.
No.
There are bad apples in any situation, in any scenario, all right? There's no doubt about that. But you cannot demonize demagogue against the entire system because the regulatory process broke down, that individuals both in government and in the private sector got greedy and didn't do what they need to do.
What would you do? Because here, I mean, in all honesty, there have been. Let me just finish the question. There's been a new small business lending program, loan guarantees from the states, all kinds of ways to try to spark the small business engine. I think both parties would say we want small business, but none of that appears to have worked. So what specifically is the Republican Party going to offer?
Again, those programs are tied to all the. You got to look at the strings attached to the program. What is the cost of those programs to the small business owners? Everyone telling small business that the health care regime is going to work for them. But as we're now finding out, premiums are going up. Employers are better off just dumping their employees into the government program. So let's get beyond what's on page one and look at what's behind all the rhetoric. And what we see is an administration and its policies that have not put in place the building stones to allow small business owners and those entrepreneurs out there who are willing to take the risk to take that risk. They're just sitting there. What you're seeing is a jobless recovery. You're seeing people, the market doing okay here and there and growth over there and maybe a little bit over there, but it's not getting down to where it needs to go so that you as an entrepreneur will say, you know what, I'm going to hire Mark today because I need to expand my business.
This is very similar to what we went through under George Bush.
Yeah, that was when we got the first term jobless recovery.
Coming out of the 2001 recession. So
George Bush created a lot of jobs. I think there were jobs created in the 8 years that George Bush was.
We can pull up those numbers.
Well, I can pull up some numbers too. So I'll put my numbers against your numbers, and we'll see where we wind up.
I leave it to anyone out there in the audience to research that. The Bush administration was a net loss.
So how many jobs did they lose over 8 years?
I don't remember the exact number.
I think the jobs were created. I'm almost confident in that. I think the markets reflected that as well.
I'm sorry?
I think the markets reflected that as well. The growth in the markets.
The growth in the
markets.
markets.
On Main Street and on Wall Street. I think those markets reflected that job.
So the Lehman blow up and all that didn't happen on Bush's watch?
Now you switched. Now you're talking
about the markets.
You've gone to the end of the term now. So you're now at the end of the term, and there were a whole lot of.
That doesn't count?
It does count.
He was still in town.
Okay, take your rose-colored glasses off, all right, and look at what really happened.
I'm looking at what really happened.
And look at what really happened. The Lehman debacle occurred at the end of the term. There's no doubt about that for a whole lot of reasons, tying back to Freddie and Fannie, going back to all those investments that were made by businesses, banks and others, putting credit on the street that went to people who couldn't afford to pay. All of that contributed to that result at the end there.
Right,
so I'm not going to deny that, but that still doesn't mean that you now put yourself in a position where you demonize against everything that happens here on Wall Street or on Main Street, that you act like wealth creation and profit is a bad thing. It's not. It's what small business owners and those in the business of business need to expand and grow. And that's a good thing.
For the numbers?
Yeah.
And who would argue against that?
You ready, Mark?
This administration clearly has been arguing against it.
It's actually interesting. The Wall Street Journal went through each president all the way back. So George Bush, net jobs created, 3 million jobs over his term. Population growth over that time for the United States was 22 million. Bill Clinton, 23.1 million jobs created, population growth 25.2. George H.W. Bush was then did 2.5 million jobs, but 12.5 million in population.
Well,
so you got the population
I'll take the 3 million created under George Bush versus the 2.2 million lost under this president in 18 months. So you guys can have it any way you want. The reality of it is People are losing jobs because of a lack of trust in the folks who actually create wealth in this economy. So don't tell me you're going to keep unemployment at 8% by spending a lot of money and it mushrooms to almost 10. Don't tell me you're going to create jobs when those jobs are actually being created in the government sector, not the private sector. And that's the reality that everyone in this country sees right now. And the question is, and you ask a good question, what's the plan?
Yes.
And the plan is, I'd much rather take the billions of dollars that we're spending on government intrusion into the markets and turn it over to the capitalists, the entrepreneurs, and the risk takers out there to go do their thing. No, we didn't. We've been successful doing that.
We tried this unfettered capitalism that you're preaching.
I'm not saying
I'm not preaching unfettered. We wound up with a disaster. Let me just finish my point.
Yeah.
We wound up with a disaster on Wall Street, a disaster in the Gulf thanks to no regulation from MMS during the Bush years.
Wait a minute. This administration signed off on that. This administration signed off on that. So don't say doing the Bush administration.
No question.
You guys.
No question.
Look, can we look from where we are and go forward? I mean, the past is the
you
past.
must be used to like buying time and speaking without interruption. There's no question that the Obama administration did not take steps to reform the MMS and to make sure that the oversight was done well.
Okay.
You're absolutely correct.
All right,
but that culture began years earlier.
It doesn't matter where it began. What happens now is on your watch, and that's where the money meets the road. So if this happened over here, something bad that you say should have been done, and I put it in front of you now, and you ignore it or accept it, whose watch does that have?
Agreed.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just had one final question. In Britain today, they're talking about savage austerity, okay? They're providing another alternative to the way the U.S. is going. Some capital gains tax are going up from 10 to 50%. Taxes are going up. Spending is being slashed. They're having taxes on alcohol and tobacco and everything, you name it. That's one way to get out of a bad fiscal situation. And as a matter of fact, some combination of spending cuts and tax increases are going to be how you do it. Is that what the Republican Party is going to come forward with?
We
have a savage austerity plan.
We're not advocating tax increases because we don't believe taxes is how you grow your way to prosperity.
You think you can grow without tax cuts out of this budget situation?
You put an economic check on the expansion and the spending by the federal government. Let's start with spending. When I was Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, our administration inherited a $2 billion deficit. What did we do? We went back and we cut the spending of government, and then we could fairly assess what was needed, whether it was in fees or taxes or any other revenue enhancements, once you understood where your bottom line is. If you have this mindset that the only way I can get from A to B is to continue to spend, while promoting other things like tax increases or tax cuts, you're doing a secular argument.
It's all fair points. Although it was Republicans who shot down the Democratic efforts to cut Medicare. I mean, I'm just saying it goes both ways. Nobody in any party in this country has shown the intestinal fortitude to cut.
I would agree with that, and that's why you see the movement among the American people right now for something different.
That's right.
And so we'll see what these candidates and what the newly electeds in November will bring to the table. And I guarantee you this, if they go down the same old road, they won't be in office long. The people will chuck them out.
We've got to go. Thank you.
Thank you.